Welcome back. Taking your phone calls, 412-575-2600 is the number for the Bordas & Bordas hotline. Also taking your tweets at Josh Taylor HD. We'll start on Twitter here. Jason with the first question of the night. He says, who do you think will be the team that gives the Steelers the biggest competition in the AFC North this season? That's a really good question. If I had to come up with one, maybe Baltimore by default? Is that it? I mean, you look around the division, Cleveland has probably gotten better because they had nothing to do but get better, if that, because they had a really, really good draft, at least by my standards. I haven't seen Cincinnati really improve in the offseason. I haven't really seen Baltimore improve in the offseason, but it might have to be Baltimore by default just because that's the way it stacked out in the division last year. It was Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Cleveland behind the Steelers, and I haven't seen any of the three really make that big of a leap to leapfrog the team in front of them, so maybe that's the same pecking order going into the season. But once again, maybe it's just by default. I mean, as good as the AFC North has been in recent years, they're looking at some lean times right now with Cincinnati and Baltimore probably taking some moves downward as far as their quality of talent. That's kind of a disappointing thing. It's good news for Steeler fans, obviously, because it gives them a better chance to win the division. But in terms of the competition, if you're a casual fan observing and like watching good football, it might be a little bit disappointing, especially when you're used to seeing, you know, some good Pittsburgh and Cincinnati games, some good Pittsburgh-Baltimore games. But I'd have to go with Baltimore, if only by default. Let's go to George on the hotline. George and Monessen, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hi, Josh. How are you tonight, bud?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hey, I wanted to bring up something on the Pirates. Just the job that Hurdle has done. Again, losing Gung and Marte for a while, and then going through the losing streak, and then the trade rumors with McCutcheon. And I heard on other sports talk shows and stuff about people saying maybe Hurdle, they're not listening to his message. He's lost the team, and I mean, he's kept his team together and got them to keep fighting. And look what happened here. I think this is a really good manager job this year by him to get this team back up to where they are.
Well, I appreciate the call. And you know what? To echo that point, I've said that quite a bit over the last maybe couple months or so when Clint Hurdle's been brought up and they're asking about, if they've really tuned him out, if he should be fired. And the one thing I keep saying, and this goes with any coach in any sport at any level, the mark of a coach and whether or not he should hang on to his job, watch how they're playing for him. Bear in mind, the Pirates went on this run, 11 of 13, to get to 48-48. That means up until that point, they were playing way below that watermark, and they had to turn it on in late June to early July to really start to get to where they are now in mid-July to late July. So that says a lot about what this team has done and how they've been able to actually keep playing despite all the things that they faced, despite not having Starling Marte for 80 games, despite not having Jung-Ho Gung for the entire season. Now, if you want to argue that they didn't make enough roster moves in the interim by the front office to supplement that, we can make that argument depending on what kind of case you're trying to make. But all things considered, George has a point. The fact that they're still playing each game and still going at it as if the season can still be salvaged says a lot. And that probably has a lot to do with why they're in the position that they're in now. Do we know what's going to happen long term? No, we don't even know what's going to happen in a week and a half at the trade deadline. But the fact that they're still showing some fight, I think, says a lot. Let's go to Kelly in Vanderbilt. Kelly, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hi, Josh. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question for you.
All right.
I really feel that the Pirates are doing a lot better because of one key thing. They're keeping Watson out of there to save the games for them. Every time they put Watson in there, he ends up blowing the game for them. They end up losing, and you can't blame the Pirates. You just blame him, because I think every time they had a lead and they had a chance to win the game, as soon as they put Watson in there, he blows the game for them. And ever since they've been keeping him out now, they have been winning so many more games with the other relievers that come in. Do you agree with me on that? That's what I wanted to ask you.
Kind of. I would tweak it just a little bit with what I would agree with. I agree taking Tony Watson out of the closer spot has made a huge difference. Putting Felipe Rivero there has been huge. I think they're 14-4 or 15-4 since Felipe Rivero took over that job. So, yes, I'll agree with you there. Taking him out of the ninth inning has helped. But Tony Watson has gotten better. He's actually adjusted quite a bit. He had a really rough first few months of the season. He's actually turned quite around. But the bullpen as a whole has gotten better. Daniel Hudson has gotten better. A.J. Shugel's been called up just recently. he's had a couple good outings. So the bullpen as a whole, I think, has shifted. But if you want to, yes, point to a better performance in the closer spot, Felipe Rivero, you can make an argument right now. Felipe Rivero might be one of the top closers in the game as far as this season's concerned, just what he's done in a short period of time. But as far as Tony Watson's concerned, I think moving him to a lower leverage situation in the 6th inning or the 7th inning, yes, he's pitched somewhat better. And you're right, moving him out of the 9th inning has helped. But he has done a pretty good job in those earlier innings. He has started to come around just a tad, if only because he could only afford to get better because he had been that bad. So, yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent. Moving him out of the 9th inning has helped, but he has gotten better pitching in earlier innings and helping preserve leads. So it's a little bit of a two sides to that coin type of situation. Let's go to Harry before we take a break here. Harry and Elizabeth, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, how you doing, George?
Good, how are you?
Okay, well, now what do you think? What do you think Bob Nutting's going to do? He's going to be a buyer or a seller? Because these guys are on a roll.
You're asking the wrong guy.
I want to know what you think.
Ask me what No Huntington's going to do. That's a more important question.
Well, he's the boss, though.
Yeah, but
No Huntington.
The GM's not on the phone making trades. He's not the guy making the phone calls. Neil Huntington
Yeah,
is.
but
That's
the one with the...
Time out here. This is a misconception that people keep having. We assume that roster moves and personnel decisions come straight from the owner, and they don't. They usually originate with the general manager and his team. Then they go to the owner. If it comes to a situation where they might have to have some money approved to make a deal, then the owner gets involved. As far as who they're targeting and who they're looking at to make moves, that is not on Bob Nutting. That's on Neil Huntington. Now, if Neil Huntington brings a move to Bob Nutting and says, look, we might have to eat some money, we might have to pick up some salary to make this work, maybe Bob Nutting signs off on it. But as far as decision-making, as far as players, who they're looking at, who goes out, that's Neil Huntington's call. That is not Bob Nutting's call. We are so eager to put a lot of blame on Bob Nutting for everything. And don't get me wrong, he deserves some of it. Not all of it, though. As far as the decision-making for this roster, that's the general manager's job. It's not the owner's job. Let's stop getting that misconstrued. Let's take a break here. We'll come back. We'll answer more phone calls and more tweets. Stick around.